Stop for a second. Just breathe. If these words found you today, there is a reason behind it, not an algorithm, not coincidence. Something inside you needed to hear this, and something larger made sure it reached you. Close your eyes for a moment and bring this person to mind. Notice what happens in your chest. That ache, that warmth, that tangled feeling that is both beautiful and hard to hold. That is not confusion. That is recognition. Part of you already understands what your conscious mind is still trying to work out. This is not simply someone you happen to meet. This is someone your deeper self seems to remember. And I understand how heavy it has been, loving someone this fully while the timing feels so wrong. I understand the quiet nights spent wondering whether any of it is even real. It is real. You are not too much. You are not being foolish. You are living through the most significant love story of your life, and I want to help you understand what that story actually means. Here is something rarely spoken about the connections that reshape us. They do not arrive to make life comfortable. They arrive to make us whole, and wholeness, dear friend, is rarely painless. Consider the most beautiful things in nature. A diamond forms under enormous pressure. A pearl grows out of an injury. A sunrise only comes after the deepest dark of night. This connection, this love that feels almost too large to contain, is shaping you in exactly that way. Right now, one of you is learning that love does not have to be earned by shrinking yourself. The other is learning that letting someone truly in will not destroy them. One of you keeps giving until there is nothing left, hoping it will eventually be enough. The other withdraws, not because the feeling is absent, but because it runs so deep it becomes frightening. And here is the tender truth underneath all of it. You are both simply trying to protect a heart that has already been wounded before. You are two people who learned love in ways that left their mark. And it is not the distance, not the silence, not the back and forth that needs healing. It is those old marks themselves. That is the real work this season is asking of both of you. But here is the part that changes everything, and I need you to stay with me. Most people never actually reach this point. There is a turning point hidden inside every truly destined connection, a moment so quiet you could almost miss it entirely. It does not arrive through some dramatic gesture. It does not come from them finally saying the right thing. It comes from you, from one quiet decision made within yourself. The decision to stop waiting to be chosen and to start choosing yourself instead. The instant that shift happens inside you, something remarkable begins, not because love operates by magic, but because love functions like a mirror. When you stop projecting desperation into the space between you, that space itself transforms. When you stop reaching toward them from fear, they no longer have anything to pull away from, and, quite possibly for the first time, they are left alone with what they genuinely feel about you, not what frightens them. Not what they have been avoiding, what they actually feel. And what they feel, I promise you, has never actually stopped. Stay with me, because what comes next is what will finally make sense of everything you have been holding on to. I want you to really let this settle. You have not been waiting around for nothing. Every quiet night spent loving someone who was not physically beside you was not wasted. Love is never wasted. Every tear shed while trying to understand why this felt so difficult, those tears were not weakness. They were your heart refusing to abandon something sacred. And that refusal is genuinely one of the most beautiful things about you. You could have shut down. You could have decided the pain was not worth it and walked away from your own capacity to feel deeply. But you did not. You stayed open. You remained soft in a world that so often rewards hardness. And that softness is not a vulnerability, it is a strength. Because only someone capable of loving this genuinely, this completely, this honestly, can build a love that actually endures. And that is precisely what is on its way to you. Not a love that leaves you guessing, not a love that makes you feel like too much, but a love that finally feels as natural as breathing. So what do you actually do with all of this right now? You do the thing that is harder than almost anything else. You turn toward yourself instead of away from them, not out of anger, not out of giving up, but with that same tenderness and patience you have been offering them all along. You start asking yourself what you need today, not what they need, not what might bring them back, but what do you need? You begin filling the spaces in your life that you had left empty, waiting for them to occupy. You start extending toward yourself the same generosity you have been pouring outward because something quietly remarkable happens when you do. You stop feeling like half a person waiting to be completed. You start feeling like a whole person ready to be met. And that sense of groundedness, that quiet fullness, radiates outward. People sense it, and the person you feel destined for will sense it most of all. This is not a strategy or some kind of game. This is simply what it looks like when you finally return home to yourself. Let me speak gently about them for a moment, because I think this matters. They are not the villain of your story. They are not indifferent, and they are not made of stone. What looks like distance is actually someone who learned very early in life that loving deeply comes at too high a cost. What looks like silence is someone standing at the edge of something enormous, too frightened to jump. They think of you in the quiet moments when nothing else is there to distract them. They wonder about you. They feel the pull toward you, and they feel your absence, even though they are the one who created it. Their fear predates you entirely. It was built long before your paths ever crossed, and no amount of love from you can heal it on their behalf, even though your heart wishes it could. You cannot love someone into readiness. What you can do is refuse to let their fear define your worth. What you can do is hold yourself with such dignity and care that when they finally work through whatever is holding them back, they find you standing fully in your own light, not waiting on your knees, but whole, radiant, ready. Let me offer you a glimpse of what lies on the other side of this, not as an empty promise, nor as a fantasy designed to soothe the discomfort of the present moment, but as a possibility that already exists within the quiet architecture of your becoming. The future rarely arrives as a sudden miracle. More often, it is built one unseen moment at a time, through choices so ordinary that they hardly seem significant when they are made. Yet each act of patience, every refusal to abandon yourself, every moment you choose truth over illusion, becomes another stone laid upon the path that leads you toward a life you cannot yet fully imagine. Picture a morning, and it is not nearly as far away as it might seem from where you stand today. The light slips gently through the window, and for the first time in a long time, your mind does not awaken carrying yesterday's weight. The familiar ache that once greeted you before your feet even touched the floor has quietly dissolved. The silence that once felt heavy now feels spacious. Your first breath no longer carries anxiety searching for answers that never came. Instead, it carries the quiet certainty that something within you has finally settled into its rightful place. The remarkable thing is that nothing magical happened overnight. There was no single conversation that erased every wound, no dramatic event that instantly transformed your life. The healing arrived almost unnoticed, like the slow turning of the seasons. Just as winter never announces the exact moment it becomes spring, your soul never announces the precise instant it learns to rest again. One day, you simply realize that the pain no longer defines the landscape of your inner world. It has become a chapter rather than the entire story. This is not because you stopped feeling deeply. Your heart did not become harder. Your capacity to love did not diminish. Quite the opposite. You discovered that true healing never asks you to feel less. It teaches you to feel without becoming imprisoned by your feelings. Your emotions become visitors instead of rulers. They move through you without convincing you that they are permanent. What once felt like endless waves threatening to pull you beneath the surface gradually become tides you know how to navigate. Carl Jung understood that suffering is not merely an obstacle to happiness. It is often the place where the psyche begins its most important work. The pain that once seemed determined to destroy you may, in time, reveal itself as the force that dismantled an identity built upon fear, insecurity, and the desperate need for external validation. What falls apart is rarely your authentic self. It is usually the fragile structure you believed you had to become in order to be loved. Now imagine looking across a quiet room. There is no tension filling the silence. There is no invisible distance measured by unanswered questions or uncertain intentions. Instead, there is presence. Real presence. The kind that does not have to prove itself through dramatic declarations because it reveals itself in countless ordinary moments. You meet this person's eyes, and instead of searching them for reassurance, you simply find peace. There is no confusion hidden there. No emotional guessing game. No subtle signals forcing you to decode every word and every silence. There is only the unmistakable calm of someone whose heart has already made its decision. They have chosen you completely, not because they need you to complete something missing within themselves, but because they recognize in you another whole human being walking beside them. That recognition changes everything. Love no longer feels like an examination you must continually pass. It is no longer a stage upon which you perform endless versions of yourself, hoping one of them will finally be enough. You no longer wake in the middle of the night, wondering whether a delayed message means your worth has somehow diminished. Your peace is no longer held hostage by another person's inconsistency. Imagine never again feeling that you must shrink parts of yourself simply to preserve someone's affection. You no longer edit your thoughts before speaking. You no longer apologize for your sensitivity, your dreams, your curiosity, or the depth with which you experience life. You are not asked to become quieter so someone else can remain comfortable. You are not encouraged to become smaller because your authenticity challenges another person's fear. Instead, your full humanity is welcomed. Your strengths are celebrated without envy. Your weaknesses are met with compassion instead of criticism. Your scars are acknowledged without defining who you are. Jung often spoke of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming fully oneself. This journey is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming integrated. It is about allowing the fragmented parts of the personality to meet each other with honesty until they no longer need to hide behind masks. Many relationships fail not because love is absent, but because both people are still asking the other to carry the unbearable weight of identities they have not yet discovered within themselves. Wholeness changes that. When two people meet from wholeness, they no longer approach love as starving travelers searching for someone else's table. They arrive carrying nourishment of their own. They share rather than consume. They encourage rather than possess. They witness rather than control. Their relationship becomes a place where two complete inner worlds continually inspire one another to grow. This kind of love is not a fantasy created by poets or filmmakers. It is not reserved for a fortunate few born beneath unusually kind stars. It is the natural consequence of psychological maturity. It emerges when two individuals have learned that love is not the filling of an emptiness, but the joyful meeting of two lives already rooted in meaning. That is why this difficult season matters far more than it appears. Every lonely evening is teaching you how to enjoy your own company. Every disappointment is revealing expectations that were never truly yours. Every unanswered question is inviting you to become more comfortable with uncertainty. Every painful goodbye is clearing space for a more honest hello. Growth often feels like loss because the psyche must release familiar identities before it can embrace new ones. The old self rarely leaves quietly. It resists. It bargains. It insists that nothing better exists beyond the borders of what is already known. Yet the unconscious continues its patient work beneath the surface, slowly rearranging your inner world until the person who eventually emerges can no longer fit inside the life they once believed was enough. This waiting is not empty. It is preparation. The silence is not abandonment. It is formation. The uncertainty is not punishment. It is the space where deeper clarity is taking shape. One day you will look back upon this season with surprising gratitude, not because the pain was enjoyable, but because you will finally understand what it was accomplishing. You will see how every disappointment quietly redirected you, how every delay protected you from settling too soon, How every moment that felt like rejection became an invitation to discover a stronger relationship with yourself. Trust that your life is becoming larger than your present circumstances. Trust that healing is taking place even when it feels painfully slow. Trust that every act of self-respect, every honest conversation with yourself, every boundary you establish, and every quiet decision to remain faithful to your own growth is shaping a future that rests upon something stronger than temporary emotion. The difficulty of this season is real, but it is not permanent. Like every season before it, it will pass. What remains will not be the pain itself, but the person you became because you refused to let the pain define you. Long after today's uncertainty has faded into memory, the strength, wisdom, compassion, and quiet confidence born from these moments will continue to accompany you. That is the true destination waiting on the other side of this journey. Not merely finding someone who loves you, but becoming someone who knows how to love without abandoning themselves. Not simply discovering peace in another person's presence, but carrying peace within yourself wherever you go. When that inner foundation has been built, the love that enters your life no longer feels like rescue. It feels like recognition. It feels like two souls meeting without masks, without fear, and without the impossible expectation that one must save the other. What you are building now cannot always be seen, but that does not make it any less real. Beneath every visible transformation lies a long season of invisible growth. The roots deepen before the branches reach toward the sky. Your soul is growing those roots even now, preparing to support a life richer, steadier, and more authentic than anything your present uncertainty can yet imagine. The tragedy is that most people abandon the process precisely because they cannot see it. They mistake invisibility for absence. They assume that because nothing dramatic appears to be happening on the surface, nothing meaningful is happening at all. Yet nature has never worked that way. The greatest transformations always begin where no eye can witness them. A seed buried beneath the earth appears lifeless to the one standing above it, but beneath the darkness, an extraordinary conversation is taking place. Its shell is breaking apart. Tiny roots are reaching into unfamiliar ground. Strength is quietly replacing stillness. Long before the first green shoot appears, the unseen foundation has already determined the height of everything that will eventually grow. The human soul follows the same mysterious rhythm. Before confidence becomes visible, it is first cultivated in countless private moments when you choose not to surrender to despair. Before peace becomes a permanent companion, it is formed through nights when your heart longs for certainty but learns instead to trust the process of becoming. Before love can arrive in its healthiest form, the inner architecture that can sustain such love must first be patiently constructed. This is why your present season may feel so confusing. Outwardly, life may seem unchanged. The same streets greet you each morning. The same routines fill your days. The same unanswered questions may still echo through your mind. Yet beneath those familiar patterns, something ancient and intelligent is quietly rearranging the foundations of your identity. The person who entered this season is not the same person who will leave it, even if the transformation remains invisible for now. Carl Jung believed that the psyche possesses an innate movement toward wholeness. Just as a flower instinctively turns toward the sun, the soul instinctively seeks integration. Yet this movement rarely feels comfortable. Growth asks the old self to loosen its grip. It asks familiar identities to dissolve so that something more authentic can emerge. That dissolution often feels like loss because the ego mistakes every ending for destruction. The unconscious, however, understands that some structures must collapse before stronger ones can be built. There are moments when it seems as though life has become painfully still, when every prayer feels unanswered, and every effort appears to disappear into silence. Those are often the moments when the deepest work is taking place. The unconscious does not rush. It does not respond to the frantic timetable of the ego. It moves with the patience of mountains being shaped by wind and rivers carving valleys through stone. Its work is measured not in hours or weeks, but in lasting transformation. Perhaps you have wondered why certain doors closed just when you believed they would finally open. Perhaps you questioned why the relationships you invested so much hope in slowly slipped away despite your sincere efforts. Perhaps you have even questioned yourself, wondering whether you somehow failed to become the person you needed to be. Yet what if those endings were never evidence of failure? What if they were the careful pruning of branches that could no longer support the life your soul is preparing to grow? A gardener does not prune a tree because it is hopeless. The gardener prunes because healthy growth requires letting go of what no longer serves the whole. To the branch being cut away, the act feels like loss. To the tree itself, it is preparation for greater life. The psyche often experiences healing in much the same way. It removes beliefs that once protected you but now imprison you. It exposes fears you have carefully hidden because they can no longer remain buried if genuine freedom is to emerge. You may not notice these changes from one day to the next. Transformation rarely announces itself with fanfare. It accumulates quietly, like countless drops of water slowly filling a vast lake. Then, one ordinary morning, you respond to a situation differently than you once would have. A memory that used to wound you now simply teaches you. A person who once held enormous emotional power over you no longer determines your peace. Without realizing it, you have become someone your past self could scarcely recognize. That is how true growth reveals itself. Not through dramatic declarations, but through quiet differences in the way you inhabit your own life. You begin to notice that your need for constant reassurance has softened into quiet confidence. You stop chasing explanations from people who have already shown you who they are. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy or uncertainty with destiny. Instead of asking, "Why wasn't I enough?" you begin asking, "What kind of life allows me to become more fully myself?" That single shift changes everything because your attention moves from seeking validation to cultivating authenticity. This is the hidden work taking place beneath the surface of your days. Every disappointment that taught you resilience is becoming another root anchoring you against future storms. Every lonely evening spent learning your own worth is becoming fertile ground from which healthier relationships will eventually grow. Every difficult choice to honor your values instead of your fears is strengthening the unseen foundation upon which your future will rest. The world celebrates blossoms because blossoms are beautiful. It photographs towering trees because they are impressive, yet no one applauds the roots buried beneath the earth. They remain hidden, covered in darkness, receiving no admiration despite carrying the entire weight of what stands above them. If those roots could speak, they would tell you that obscurity is not failure. It is preparation. Their invisibility is precisely what allows them to become strong enough to support something magnificent. Your soul is living through that hidden season now. It is learning stability before success. It is learning wisdom before recognition. It is learning peace before fulfillment. These lessons cannot be rushed because anything gained too quickly often disappears just as quickly. Lasting transformation demands patience. It asks you to trust processes you cannot measure and progress you cannot yet see. One day, the life you have been quietly building within yourself will become visible to everyone around you. They will notice your calm in situations that once overwhelmed you. They will wonder where your quiet confidence came from. They will admire the relationships that surround you, the peace that seems to accompany you, and the depth with which you move through the world. What they will not see are the countless invisible moments that made those visible realities possible. They will not witness the nights you questioned everything yet chose hope anyway. They will not know how many times you rebuilt your heart after disappointment. They will only see the branches reaching confidently toward the sky, unaware of the roots that spent years growing in silence. And perhaps that is how it is meant to be. The deepest work of the soul has never depended upon an audience. It unfolds in sacred privacy, where applause cannot influence it and comparison cannot corrupt it. It is there, in the quiet places of your life, that your character is being shaped into something enduring. It is there that your heart is learning not merely how to survive disappointment, but how to remain open despite it. It is there that your identity is slowly detaching itself from external approval and fastening itself instead to something far more permanent. So, if today feels ordinary, if progress feels invisible, if your future seems hidden behind unanswered questions, resist the temptation to believe that nothing is happening. Some of the most extraordinary chapters of life begin beneath the surface, where no one is watching and no immediate reward is offered. Trust that your roots are growing even when your branches appear still. Trust that every act of courage, every moment of patience, every decision to honor your own healing is sinking deeper into the soil of your becoming. For when the season finally changes, and it always does, the life that rises from these hidden roots will not be fragile. It will not depend on temporary circumstances or the approval of passing strangers. It will stand with quiet strength because it was formed in truth. What grows slowly often grows deeply, and what grows deeply can withstand storms that would uproot anything built in haste. That is the quiet miracle unfolding within you now. Beneath the surface of uncertainty, beneath the silence, beneath the waiting, your soul is becoming capable of holding the very life it has been preparing for all along. When that life finally blossoms into view, it will not feel like luck or coincidence. It will feel like recognition. You will realize that every unseen moment, every hidden struggle, and every patient step was never delaying your future. They were creating it. So here is where I will leave you, and I want to leave you gently. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where you are meant to be, in the middle of a transformation that is going to change everything. This love story is far from over. It has not even reached its most beautiful chapter yet, and that chapter is being written right now. In every moment you choose your own healing over your fear. In every moment you trust something you cannot yet fully see. In every moment you decide that you deserve the very love you keep trying to give away. Keep going, not because it is easy, but because it is yours. Because what is truly meant for you carries your name on it, and nothing, not fear, not timing, not distance, can take it from where it is already waiting for you.